Hello everyone, this is the Joy of Reading, and today I'm going to do the Favorite Characters tag by A Little Book Life. I'll put the link to the original tag in the description box below. So the first prompt is a character you love fiercely. I am going to interpret this prompt as a character that I adore and not as a character I could have a crush on, so my answer is Dante from the Divine Comedy. It might sound like a very weird choice, but if you follow my channel, you'll know that I am a huge fan of the Divine Comedy. I've read it multiple times and I have a very close relationship with the book. And Dante is not just the one who tells the story, but he is the comedy's protagonist and he puts all of himself into it. He is so good at portraying his fictional reactions and emotions, and his fictional relationship with other characters are so genuine that you have trouble remembering that this is a work of fiction after all, and that he didn't really make this journey in the afterlife. Prompt 2. A character that is heavily flawed, but that you cannot help but love. Well, there's probably more than one, but the first one who comes into my mind is Max Ashkenazi from The Ashkenazi Brothers by Israel Singer. The book is set in Poland between the end of the 19th century and the aftermath of the First World War. And Max Ashkenazi is a Jewish businessman, company owner. He is an awful husband, father and brother. He exploits people whenever he can. He doesn't care about anyone and he is a terrible boss. So the kind of person I would really dislike in every respect. But his internal strength and determination make it impossible for me to really hate him. At some point during the book he is in Russia while the Soviet Revolution starts. And since he is a wealthy merchant, he is imprisoned and he almost dies of starvation until his brother, who does have a heart of gold, finds him and frees him. And then they travel back to Poland together and they find out that the new Polish officers who are in charge after the First World War are deeply anti-Semitic. So the two brothers are insulted and humiliated in every possible way, and Jakob, Max Ashkenazi's brother, is killed. And Max Ashkenazi pulls himself together and he starts again. And he takes blow after blow, and every time he pulls himself together and begins anew with the same determination, and he is completely lonely because he is such a horrible person that nobody wants anything to do with him. So he has to manage everything on his own, and it's just a sight to behold. Prompt 3. A character that made you laugh out loud. Well, this is going to be another weird answer, because I pick Gregor Samsa from The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I know that Kafka is not usually associated with laughter, but trust me, his works are full with humor and irony. So at the very beginning of The Metamorphosis, Gregor Samsa finds out that he has been turned into a giant insect during the night. And he doesn't bother to ask himself how on earth it happened and how to fix it. His problem is just that he has to stand up because he has to go to work and he's already late. And as you can imagine, if you are a giant insect with like 6 or 8 legs and you are lying on a bed on your back, it isn't just so easy to stand up. So he tries to roll back and forth, but it doesn't work. Then he tries to roll right and left, and finally he can get out of bed, but he falls and he hits his head. The way Kafka tells this is hilarious, and I remember that I laughed out loud. Fourth prompt. A child character that you like. There's more than one, but the first one who pops into my mind is Sophie Gravillon from The French Nanny by Bianca Pitzorno. Bianca Pitzorno is a children's book author I already mentioned in another video, and her novels' protagonists are usually young girls. This particular book, The French Nanny, is a partial retelling of Jane Eyre. Sophie is a young girl who starts working as a nanny for a family in Paris in the first half of the 19th century. And then the child she is looking after travels to England to live with her father, and Sophie follows. And I could identify with this girl and with many other characters created by the same author on so many levels. It is difficult to pick one of Bianca Pitzorno's female characters because I like all of them, but this one is probably my favorite. Prompt 5. An animal character that you love. Well, my first answer would be Snoopy from the Peanuts. I'm not sure whether I am allowed to pick him because he is not exactly depicted as a normal dog, but he is the first one who pops into my mind, so I pick Snoopy. And if you have never read The Peanuts, start doing it by all means. Prompt 6. A strong woman character that you love. So my first pick would be Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series. But for the most part of the series, she is a girl and not a woman yet, so I'm picking Minerva McGonagall, also from the Harry Potter series. Professor McGonagall is a brilliant witch. She is strong, determined and caring. She is not afraid of fighting and of speaking her mind no matter the personal cost, so I've always seen her as a great role model. Prompt 8. A brave character that you admire. For this prompt I pick Robert from For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. Robert is an explosive expert who decides to fight as a volunteer during the Spanish Civil War against the fascists. He is not compelled to fight because he is not even Spanish, but he decides to do it nonetheless because he thinks it is the right thing to do, and he ends up paying for this choice with his life. Prompt 8. A character who scares the hell out of you. I choose The Haunter of the Dark by Philip Lovecraft, a short story which belongs to the so-called Cycle of Cthulhu. In this short story, a writer accidentally summons a terrible being while visiting an abandoned church, and this being can only walk around in darkness, so it is mostly restrained in the church. But at some point there is a blackout in town because of a thunderstorm, and you can imagine what happens. I have to say that the whole Cycle of Cthulhu by Lovecraft is pretty creepy, but I think this is the creepiest horror character ever. Prompt 9. A really mean character. Well, I have no doubt this is Pyotr Luzhin from Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Luzhin is a suitor of the protagonist's sister. The protagonist's sister, Dunya, is quite poor, while on the contrary, Luzhin is a wealthy lawyer. And while courting her, he states clearly that he expects her to be grateful because he, who is rich, chose to marry her who is poor. And he says very clearly that he is going to remind her of that after the marriage. And he is so petty and repulsive that you just want to slap him. Prompt 10. A character that you hate. I have two characters, Mr. and Miss Murdstone from David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. I cannot pick one of them because they are both so awful. I must say, Dickens has a talent for making you hate some characters. I mean, in the very same book, David Copperfield, we also find Uriah Heep, another character who makes you want to hit him with a cane. But I think the Murdstones are even worse, and I must say Miss Murdstone reminds me somehow of Dolores Umbridge, which of course is another horrendous pick. That's all for today, thank you for listening, and in my next video I will go on with my Divine Comedy series. Have a nice weekend!